Good morning, everyone. My name is Adithya, studying grade 7. Today, let us learn about the pandas' head and tail functions. First, the head function. So, the head function, it is used to get the first n rows of the data frame. So, why is the head function so necessary? Why don't you just print out the whole data frame and check the data frame? So, suppose you have a data frame with lakhs of records and you just want a tiny glimpse on how the data is and what data types and all those features are. So, to do this, you can just call the head function and it will print the first 5 records of the data frame. It is simpler than printing lakhs of records, right? Yes. So now let us learn the syntax of the head function. First the data frame name, suppose df, then the head function, and it takes in the parameter n. By default, the value of n is 5. So what is this n? It is the number of rows to display. So by default n is 5, that means it will display 5 records of the data frame by default. You can set your custom value for n. Suppose 10, 15, 12, 17, etc. So similarly, we also have the tail function. Whereas the tail function, it returns the last n rows. Similarly, n is the number of rows to display. By default, it is 5 and you can set your custom value. So now, let us look at a live example to understand these functions. So, we have this data called tips from a restaurant. It has several columns. So let us go one by one through the columns. First is the total bill of the order in dollars. Then there is the tip amount. Then the sex. There are 2 values for this, male or female. Then whether the person is a smoker or not. Yes or no. Then the day. There are only 4 days that this restaurant is working. They are Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday. Then there is the time, dinner or lunch. At last, there is the size or number of people. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6. So now as we got to know this data, let us work on it using the head and tail function. Here is my Jupyter notebook. So first we are importing pandas, the pandas library with the alias pd. Next, you are reading the data from a CSV file. A CSV file is also known as a comma separated file, comma separated value file. So here you are reading the data with the read CSV function and the file name is tips.csv. The file is in the directory of the notebook. This is the data. So let me run it. Yeah, the data is saved in the data frame df_tips. Next, I am printing the first 5 rows of the data using the head function. So here I did not mention the value of n. So it is taking the default number of rows, which is 5. There you go. The first 5 records of your data frame has been printed. One thing to keep in mind is that, as you know, Python indexing starts from 0. Also, in Pandas, by default, the index starts from 0. But you can change the name of the index. Let us move on to the next cell. Here, we are going to try printing not just 5 by default, but a custom number, say 10 records. So the data frame name df underscore tips dot the head function and the value of n. Suppose let's take it as 10. Let me run the cell and there you go. Your first 10 records has been printed. Now next, we are going to display the last 5 rows of data. We can do this using the tail function. As you know, by default, the value of n is 5. So we don't need to specify the number of records. Okay, so you may be thinking, here the value is 243, but in Excel, the last number is 245 records. As I said to you, the indexing starts from 0. So you're asking me, so okay, it is 244 records of data. But actually, how is it 243? Here, if you look at the data in the Excel file, there is also the header function included as 1. But in Pandas, it is included as a separate header. In the next cell, we are going to display a custom number of rows. Suppose 10. So with this function, we are displaying the last 10 records of the data. I hope you learned what is the head and tail function. Thank you.